recording this event. So do not worry about needing to furiously take down notes of everything we say. If you are yearning for some of our brilliance after this evening, you will be able to play back this event as often as you would like at your leisure. Secondly, if any questions come up during the night, please chat them to my colleague, Samantha Schreiber, using the chat function in Zoom. Sam will hold on to them, and if we have time at the end of our program, we will tackle some of those questions. Otherwise, by all means, feel free to email your college counselor so they can answer any unanswered remaining questions down the line. With that out of the way, I want to quickly acknowledge and thank Chris Scarlatta, Milken's 9th and 10th grade Division Dean, for joining us tonight and for his continued partnership. And now I want to turn over our program briefly to a very, very dear friend of our office, someone that our team has known for a long time and deeply, deeply respects and appreciates, Nikki Molina. Nikki has worked with Milken over the last decade in her admission capacities at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, and while at USC in Los Angeles. Nikki now serves as an associate director and director of diversity recruitment and outreach at Barnard College in Manhattan. And she joins us this evening from New York. So Nikki, we are so grateful that you are here, and it is great to see your face. And I will turn it over to you.
Oh, okay, hi. I was like, oh no, the host is not letting me unmute myself. Hello, everyone, and good evening and or good afternoon. I am coming to you live from New York in my basement, if you can't already tell. Again, my name is Nikki Molina, and I'm so excited and humbled to be with you all this evening to kind of kick off what is going to be a wonderful opportunity that you have with one of the best counseling staffs that I have the opportunity to work with, the Milken staff. So thank you so much again. I will kind of keep on track with kind of the themes of what you were talking about and being able to kind of just hopefully dispel some information as you are going through and navigating this process, whether you are going through this for the first time or whether this is probably your third or fourth time. It changes every single year. As someone who has been it for a decade, which, Ross, when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for a very long time, though I hope it doesn't look like it, because that means my skin regimen is working, everyone. Either way, I am so glad to be with you today. I wanted to kind of just kick off with the elephant in the room, right? We are still in a pandemic. We are all kind of in an interesting scope of where we would be presenting. Normally, I would be with you all on the stage in the gym, and instead, again, in the basement. So, you know, it's not lost on me the changes that have happened. And even now, kind of thinking about what does it mean for students going through this process either right now or gearing up as your sophomore students are getting ready to kind of think about this college process, which in some ways is already daunting enough, even if we were in normal times, but is currently daunting because now we just don't know what it looks like, right? Admissions offices are constantly, probably daily, it feels like, updating all of their policies, all of their community initiatives, all of their identities, if you will. And that is, in essence, even further stressful because you all are trying to keep up with all of the traditional jargon and or changes that are happening. And what does that mean for your students? What does that mean now that the traditional brick and mortar opportunity of learning has been completely stripped away and we are all in Brady Bunch boxes every single day, it seems like, right? And so, you know, in thinking of being a voice on the higher ed side, I can absolutely kind of encourage in some ways to let you know that we understand. We are quite empathetic to these changes. We are very much thinking about every single day the constant struggles that our students are having of whether it's community building, whether it's the attainment and retainment of the information that they're learning in their classes every day, of the curriculum that they are taking, that they're excited to be invested in, but still trying to manage kind of this duality of what does that look like. And, I know a question that definitely comes into mind for not only your students right now as they're going through, but even current students who are going through the college process today is, how are you going to look at my grades? Like, are you going to see that I've really like tried my best because of all of these changes that are happening? The resounding answer is yes. We recognize that. We're going to see that this effect of this pandemic is going to be something that we kind of put on the same attribute of any hurricane that has hit our country, or any national security items that have happened. We're going to think about it that same way. How was this student affected? How were they able to bounce back? And in some ways, this is giving them a more so show versus tell within their application, right? They're going to be able to show the grit. They're going to be able to show how they were able to actually, adapt in the same ways that we are hopeful within the letters that they will receive from their college counselors, that they have been adaptable to this change, that they have been able to, showcase a discipline that is really something that a lot of colleges within a holistic process are really looking to. Does that mean that we know the answer tomorrow of exactly how we're going to review students in the next 2-3 years? No, but it is also giving us on our end of the spectrum of higher ed an ability to think about, what does this mean for students going through a college process, right? Thinking about our policies overall, thinking about how many institutions have treated this year and potential future cycles as test optional, and thinking about kind of, what does that mean for a student gearing up? Where should they lean to? What should they lean on? And so forth. And I like to think of it optimistically, because quite frankly, the way that admissions and highly selective admissions was going, it just wasn't having that balance of being able to really showcase the student fully without kind of taking away something. Now, that may feel a bit superfluous and that may feel far away, but I do hope that it kind of gives you that opportunity to hear from someone in higher ed that we are thinking about this. This is something that we're taking seriously. This is something that we know is going to be a ripple effect as we continue through the years. Now, I mentioned, the online learning. We're going to see that. We're going to understand that. And I'll speak a little further to this towards the end of my conversation with you all. But this is also where the partnership with the college counselors comes into play. I am seeing already within our early decision cycles, within the letters of the college counselors, that they're letting us know the, situation of the high school, that students are either fully remote or in person, half day or not the other day, an autumn mixed schedule. And that kind of opportunity to give us that scope and that lens really helps, right? It helps us colleges in thinking about the entire ethos of the student and what they're going through as they're achieving their academic excellence, if you will. But what does that mean for activities? That's a big kind of jargon within higher ed. What are your extracurricular activities? What are you invested in? What are you passionate about? What are the things that you do all the time? That looks different, right? Many students who would have been either, at soccer camp or debate club, or have traveled across the globe to do a form of community service or really invest their time, that has been stripped away from them, right? We were all basically told to stay home, and that limited, again, that physical community that in essence comes with this extracurricular activity that we so talk about what you're doing outside of the classroom within higher ed. What does that mean? What does that look like? Well, I kind of like to think of it in an optimistic way, right? I don't know if this is also showcasing my age, but these students, your students, have always been in an era of technology. They don't know a world with AOL dial-up. Did I just throw it back real far, y'all? They have no idea that you could not be on the phone and surfing the web at the same time without picking up the phone while you're on the web and losing your hearing, right? They will never know that. They are a generation that has always had the opportunity to build, to grow, to learn at literally their fingertips. Why do I say that? Well, this is a generation that is now being forced to rely on something that they've always had. They have always had basically the world at their fingertips every single day, and now they have no other option but to use it, right? What an interesting juxtaposition that these students are in. I frame it that way because now we can think of, well, what are they doing with it, right? They're able to connect with someone literally across the globe from them, hours away from them in an instant, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a TikTok video, whether it's a Snapchat. I don't know if they still use Snapchat, but don't tell them that I said that. They're able to still have those forms of community, right? Which is basically what extracurricular activities or activities are, building community in a way that is creating an impact. It's just looking different as far as being able to create that impact, but it's still with something that they've always had, right? These are students that have always had Google. I can't believe that. They've always had Google. They don't even know who Jeeves is. And that's the person I had to ask to get information, right? If you don't know who that is, Google, ask Jeeves. It's a very interesting trip. But I say it that way because now this is really, as I mentioned, the show versus the tell. These students are going to be able to show how they were able to adapt, how they were able to, build in that discipline, if you will, that would have come so easily with being in person or being in that traditional brick and mortar setting of building community, right? So I'm not thinking of it necessarily negatively, though it does feel, as someone who loves to be outdoors, very hard. But thinking of it as, okay, this is a generation that has always had the means. Now, what are they going to do with it? And so there is a piece of excitement because what can't they do? Right? They have all of these apps. We have all of these apps on our phones. I see that some of you are listening to me via your phones. That's amazing. We couldn't do that back then, right? We have also had to adapt. So now what is this generation going to do with these opportunities that just feel a little different, right? So there is a disruption that I'm excited that these students are going to capitalize on. So, okay, maybe it won't be traditional football camp, right? But what was it about that sport that they love so much? How can they veer that passion in something else, right? For those students who were passionate about being activists or advocates, there is another way to do that. For those students who had a love of literature or love of poetry or love of reading and writing, there is a different scope to be able to kind of entertain those passions and those passion projects that we all, in some ways, are slightly shifting our own lens as to what is important and how we are making and creating those ripples, which is ultimately what colleges want, right? Yes, we talk about what are you doing outside of the classroom. It doesn't necessarily have to be that physicality. It's that community building, but community looks different to everyone. Quite frankly, we're in a community right now. We're a community of, folks who have a love of higher ed in some ways and wanting success of the students who are going through that process. This, in essence, is a community that we're a part of tonight or this afternoon. And so I really am excited to see how that will change this traditional ideology of what, the learning curve and the activities curve that students are going through right now in this pandemic will look like. All that to say, again, every higher ed institution is different. Some of us are more, ingrained into looking at what is the impact or the ripple effect that a student is doing. But then that's why you have these wonderful folks who, easily called me and said, hey, we're having an event. Can you come? And I was like, first of all, you thought of me. Oh my gosh, thank you. And secondly, of course, why wouldn't I? And I start off that kind of notion because there is a bond and there is an air of trust that I feel with your college counselors, and they clearly feel with me, right? Why do I say it that way? Well, they are trusting me to talk to you, their families, and you are kind of the, patriarchs and the matriarchs of your families right now to be able to continue that information flow. That for me is exciting. That's also very humbling, and that doesn't come easy. There's a lot of admissions counselors in the world, trust me, but there is a building of relationship that comes from both ends of the desk. And so when they let me know, hey, I know you're on the East Coast. Our families are on the West Coast. It is 9:46 p.m. Do you mind? And I was like, of course I don't mind. Get out of town. I'm coming. What should I wear? Right? I say it because I want to ensure that you all understand that these folks are really going to be the middle people that really are sharing the information with us. If you need kind of a visual, I always like to give visual for folks who are wondering what it's like. Think of the college counselors at Milken as a scale. They're in the middle trying to balance not only the needs and wants of your student and you all as family members going through this process, but also the profile and expectations of the colleges in which you are looking at, right? They are constantly, doing kind of this motion, if you can imagine a scale, right? Weighing and kind of, easing on weight on other things in order to strike a balance for both parties. And I think that's a really hard job because they not only have to do it with your student, they have to do it with all of us colleges who literally want 14 different things in 14 different ways. Like, I mean, how many ways can you make a soup? Well, there is broccoli cheddar, there's tomato, there's regular, you know what I mean? So I think about it that way, that they are really trying to strike this balance on top of being able to ensure that they are trusting the institution in which they are kind of navigating you and your student through, that it will be a success at the end. And success doesn't mean, oh, we got in. Success means going through the 4 years of that undergraduate college and institution. That's the success. Are you going to be supported? Should something happen, is the student going to be okay? Will they find community? Is this a safe space for the student to be bold? Is it a space that the student is actually going to be challenged? Or is it a space that's really just a name that they can wear in a sweatshirt, right? It is what it is. But in thinking of those opportunities, that's what these college counselors do. That's who I say, my friends, that's what they do, right? Because they are able to then really think about all of the probabilities that are coming into play every single year. It is not an easy feat. We were chatting prior to jumping on with everyone about, the different identities that colleges have as it stands for their test optional policies in this 1 year, right? I'm sure many of you have kind of seen, particularly with the UCs, particularly with some of the Ivies, kind of what they're transitioning to do, what they may do, what they not do. That's a lot of information that is literally kind of constantly going across their desks that they are then trying to figure out for you. And so why is this important? You're probably like, well, what if I want to get someone else to do it? Okay, well, this is my biased opinion, but you literally have folks who know your community. They know your schedules at Milken. They know, who the deans of the certain classes are. Hey, Chris, how are you? Right? They know who to go to if there is a question in a subject, if they have an inquiry about kind of just, the passion projects of your student. They are literally in the inside. They can kind of give that kind of idea of what's happening there. Why would you go outside for someone else to give their opinion on your student? I'll just toss it up there. And I say it that way in the same way that we as higher ed institutions have admissions counselors or admissions representatives for specific territories or areas. It's because of that opportunity to give that lens that sometimes isn't so readily available, right? It's like if you do ask a New Yorker, where's the best pizza? You may get 14 different answers, but they're legit because they're from New York, right? I wouldn't ask someone from Tampa to give me a suggestion for New York pizza. They have no idea. They're not there. They don't live there. I want someone who's going to give me that information. No shade to Tampa, just FYI. It's an example that came to mind, okay? But I say it that way because these folks also are able to kind of be our direct line. They can pick up the phone or they can pick up the Zoom and call us. We are more inclined to talk to the college counselors than we are to anyone else. Again, because of that trust, right? They can give us that inside information that we may not know. We may not understand kind of the way the calendar is set up. We may not understand on the outside why certain curricula is structured in the way that it is, but they can give us that information that is so valuable to ensure that we are giving the best advocacy to your students when they're applying. And so it goes hand in hand, quite frankly, particularly with where we are with this pandemic and how colleges are constantly shifting to how you all are transitioning now to thinking about this college process of what is next? What do I need to know? How much exposure should I have? Or should I keep my hands up and just kind of think about letting someone else who actually knows the reins to do it, right? Like it's hand in hand because it's constantly changing. Us colleges, we don't know. We're still figuring it out every single day with the intent of ensuring that we have the best interests of your student at heart and being able to ensure success. Yes, not just getting in, but finishing the 4 years, right, successfully. And also thinking about what can we do to ensure the growth of that student, right? To be able to continue that discipline, that adaptability, that those passion projects that may have seemed so far away, but now they're in the space to be able to really engage in that regard. And so I encourage you to not be scared to ask questions of these wonderful folks who I do miss dearly and wish I was there, right? Because they're able to then give that lens. They're able to then provide kind of the entire scope with the tailored view for you and your student, right? And I think that's the most important part. Like they are able to really balance all of the competing interests and get a tailored identity of a college for your student, but also make this process less stressful, right? Like there are constant new policies going on, even now, with how higher ed will be handled. They do have a pulse on that. They are able to call us. They are able to kind of get in our email and we respond to them more directly than we probably would to anyone else. I mean, yes, we love students. Students email us all the time. But like I said, they got Google and they're normally asking questions that are found on our FAQ page, right? Students are more inclined to ask the college counselors, I really am passionate about neuroscience, but I also love to dance. Where can I do that? Like, I don't know any place that I can be able to actually narrow down on an FAQ page where to do that. Well, you have 5 experts in the room, right? You have folks that are able to really lean in and say, okay, let's break this down a little more. Let's really have this. Because it's really more than just, is your essay good? It's really more than just, well, what projects are you doing and how can you highlight that? It really is, as a collective person on the pages, are you coming through? Is your voice showing? And when you get in, are you going to be happy? And so I really am just so grateful to have, been taking the time with you all to kind of be the first one up, if you will, to chat with you about these ideas. I don't know if I could take questions, Ross. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted, but that's what I have to say. I am obsessed with the Milken counseling staff, but I also am so appreciative and humbled that they were able to lean on me to kind of give you some information about that.
Nikki, we are so thankful that you could join us. We miss you so much, and we are looking forward to you being able to visit us in Los Angeles again. And we promise the parents we will try to bottle Nikki's energy, and we will try our best to have her back in front of you at some point over the next couple of years so you can hear her wisdom again. But thank you so much, Nikki. It was a great start to our event. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Good luck. You're going to do great. You're in wonderful hands. I have no doubt. Please stay safe and stay healthy. And I wish you all the best in the coming year.
Thank you, Nikki. We really appreciate your words of wisdom and your guidance.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you. So to be transparent, I'll tell you that I intend to keep my opening remarks really brief this evening. As my colleagues and I always attempt to do, we greatly considered how to spend our evening with you and what important takeaways we felt were most critical to leave you with. One of the changes we decided to include tonight is a more personalized and intimate setting as best as we can replicate in Zoom, so you can get to know us as professionals and as human beings over the course of the evening. It struck me as I thought about tonight that reality, our wanting you to get to know us, what we do and how we work, is much like what we expect and yearn for in our work with your students. A little teaser that might prelude some of my colleagues' remarks in just a bit is that we signed up for the work we do at Milken because we want to work with your children. We want to get to know them, their desires and their aspirations, and we want to take our expertise and our passion for our field and impart that on our students. That is our purpose, and that is our goal at Milken. For those of you that I have not met, I'm Ross Mancuda, one of 4 full-time college counselors at Milken. In just a few moments and over the course of the next several months and years, you will come to know my colleagues, Jessica Jackson, Shelley Kiermann, and Samantha Schreiber. Last but certainly not least, I want to mention Zoya Fatima, who is an integral part of our team and will work really closely with you and your children in the coming months and years as well. We are very blessed to have her support in our office. So getting back to my teaser before, while it's our goal to have you get to know us this evening, Our goal over the coming year or so will be to really get to know your students. The counseling assignments that went out on Friday afternoon are just the start of what we hope will be strong and meaningful relationships and connections that we make with our newest cohort, the class of 2023. We each pride ourselves on the relationships we build with our students, relationships that will truly begin being formed in January and only grow from there. So before we get started, pump the brakes if they need to be pumped, lower anxiety, not just for you, but more so for your kids. Watch your kids and learn from them about the purpose they are finding in their lives. And please trust us and our colleagues at Milken to appropriately shepherd them over the next few years. I assure you, we know what we're doing. And as my colleagues will show you, we do it extensively and with great purpose and intent. So with that, we're going to help you get to know us all a bit better. And to start, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Jessica Jackson.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you here this evening. As Ross said, I am Jessica Jackson, one of the college counselors here at Milken. And giving a little bit of background about me, and we're all going to take our turn. I guess I will start with saying that I grew up in a really small town on the Canadian border in Vermont. My colleagues like to tease me that I always talk about my hometown with saying that we have more cows than humans and I live 20 miles from a stoplight, but honestly, that's like as exciting as it gets. So that's my go-to in talking about where I grew up. Needless to say that the 37-degree weather this morning in Sherman Oaks really made me feel like I was back home in Vermont. So it finally feels a little bit like winter almost, I guess. I attended Elmira College in upstate New York, where I studied mathematics and secondary education. I really loved my time at Elmira. It's a small private liberal arts college. I was able to get to know my professors really well, and I was involved in a lot of different clubs and activities that you can take advantage of on a small campus. After graduating from Elmira, I somehow ended up in Southern California, which was both a surprise to my family and to me that that's where life took me, but it has a funny way of working out. I worked in college admissions at Claremont McKenna College for 5 years. And that is where I was able to really have the curtains pulled back on college admissions. Claremont McKenna is another small private liberal arts college about 50 miles east of Milken. And having the curtains pulled back on selective college admission really gave me a sense of how things work in those offices and on different types of college campuses. I joke that I got sick of denying students and crushing dreams for a living, and that I really wanted longer lasting relationships with students, but that really is the truth. And that is what led me to jump to the other side of the desk and choose to work at Milken. Working at Milken has more than exceeded my expectations in that capacity of being able to build those relationships. As you heard from Nikki and as Ross kind of alluded to, the relationships are the key thing that we really enjoy doing in this job. So it's pretty wild to me that this is now my 3rd year at Milken. And as I looked through the Zoom room, I recognized so many names from parents of students who I've worked with in the past or even this year. So it's kind of full circle in that sense. I think about some of the relationships I cultivated with students in the last couple of years in my role. And I think about one in particular with Jeremy Goldenstein. His siblings, Sophia and Benjamin, are in this class. And I think we all can remember fondly last year, Jeremy, being a senior at Milken, was in our office like at least once a week, meeting with me to go over his essays and his applications. And I really was able to go through every step of the process with him applying to college. And I think that overall, that relationship was the best thing for me. And I was able to do that with other students too, knowing that Jeremy and other students can come to me with the questions that are maybe freaking them out a little bit, things that they're nervous about, that they know I'm going to be honest and transparent with them. And that authentic relationship is going to be the most fulfilling part of the job in that sense. So I really look forward to cultivating similar relationships with your students as well. I will pass it over to my colleague, Ms. Kiermann.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Shelley Kiermann. Good to see some good faces tonight and names and getting to know this class. I have been at Milken the longest. This is my 19th year at Milken, which is totally crazy. When Ross said the class of 2023, I was like, wow, I know classes from so long ago, and thinking about those relationships, like kids from 2006, 2010, 2016, who I regularly see, talk to, and those relationships that have lasted all these years. It's amazing. I was a history teacher for a long time. I was a dean of students at Milken, and moved into college counseling about 12 years ago. I'm originally from Vancouver. I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, but pretty much came to LA after college. And, you know, of all the hats that I've worn at Milken, I think the reason why I love college counseling the most is because our job is really about bringing the best out of our students and helping them do a lot of digging, do a lot of soul searching, do a lot of reflecting and articulating who they are, and to somebody, you know, 3,000 miles away who may never meet them, who's going to see them on paper. But it's in those meetings that I have, you know, week after week, and there's something that happens like in the beginning of senior year in the fall, when after we've been meeting with kids for, you know, weeks in a row, and we've seen every part of their application like multiple times, and all of their essays and every line of their application, where we really know like super intimate things about this kid, because like everything that's really important to them, they're trying to articulate to somebody else. And it's in those moments, I think, that we really get to see them and get to help them and like really see their growth and really help them make some really hard choices, and really get to know them on a level that, you know, I think is really, really special in this role. And that's like something that I really appreciate over the years of getting to do year in and year out. And even this year, even over Zoom, like we all sat there, you know, with every one of our seniors before November 1st, and we hit the send button with them on every college application with them. And we were with them, you know, till the very end of like applying to college. So that's really fun for me. And that's a highlight of the job, and getting to do what we do. And I will also just mention that I have two boys. I have a 6-year-old and almost a 9-year-old. And they keep me busy, and I'm learning more about first and third grade than I ever wanted to learn in my life this year. But that's the way it is. So nice to see you all.
I think I'm up next. Hi, I'm Sam Schreiber, as the window says, and I am in my 4th year at Milken. I grew up in Calabasas, so Valley girl myself, and went to Vanderbilt for undergrad, which is my background. That's the School of Education. I majored in psych and Spanish, and then did a master's in social work at USC, and started working in their admissions office, and had Milken as part of my territory, and was there for 5 years. And then I went to Pomona College, which is part of the Claremonts, where Claremont McKenna is with Ms. Jackson. So I worked at Pomona for 2 years, and then in my 4th year at Milken. You know, I got my first email today from a senior letting me know that they were into a college. And I mean, I literally think I sighed out loud and said, oh my God, we did it. And I think this year more than ever really feels, I mean, not only am I seeing the backgrounds of their rooms, but I'm seeing their computer backgrounds and the tabs they have open and the bookmarks. And, you know, I hear them, their moms coming in, and I'm with Miss Schreiber. And I don't know, it feels more personal this year, even though we're not in person. Because I'm in their home, I'm in their bedroom, I'm in their parents' office. I have to wait as I go get their mom's credit card. So those relationships, again, like Ms. Jackson said, are why I came to the high school side. Was instead of it being, you know, a transactional, you want to be admitted, you think I'm the person that decides everything. Now it's much more of helping them keep track of what all of the schools want. And I don't know, it's different every year, but at the same time, it's the same every year. And, you know, obviously I recognize a lot of last names too, and have repeat families. And it's amazing how different it will be when these sophomores are seniors, especially given the process that's happening now. Yeah, that's me. I'm also, Nikki was in her basement. I'm in my garage. That's why I'm like Steve Jobs in it. I just look like a head, which is not a great Zoom look. I have cats. We're fostering a cat right now. She's asleep on one of my sweaters, which is very cute. And I'm going to stop and turn it over to Mr. Mancuda. But thank you guys so much for being here. And I look forward to talking more later and getting to know your students.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Ross Mancuda. Like Nikki, I am burning the midnight oil. I'm in New York. I am from New York originally, and I am home for the first time since February with my family. So it's really nice to be on the East Coast. It is 75 degrees here in Long Island. So I've been sending pictures and letting my colleagues back in 37 degrees Sherman Oaks know what the weather is in New York. This is my 11th year at Milken. I am an East Coast guy. I got my degrees at GW in Washington, DC. My professional kind of life prior to higher education was in politics. I have experience with some work at the White House and on Capitol Hill. After I shuffled off from politics, I spent some time in the admissions office at GW, my alma mater in DC, and then I moved to LA in 2008 to take a job at USC in their admissions office just prior to Ms. Schreiber being there. And I too had Milken as my territory, and Shelley and our former colleague reached out to me 11 years ago with an opening and to see if I would be interested in making that transition from the college admission side to the counseling side. And 11 years later, here I am. In the last year and a half, I've added alumni relations and strategic partnerships to my purview at Milken. And I think that is the easiest way for me to let you know the joy of the job. You know, I'm looking at some parents on this screen and on other screens who I've known for 11 years. There is one family in this class who I will be working with their 6th kid, who's in the 10th grade. I have had all 6 of their children. That goes to show you how long I've been at Milken and quite frankly, how many kids they had. But adding the alumni relations piece was such a natural fit because I really, really adore the students that I get to work with. You know, Sam talked about it being in a way more personal being online. It kills me. Zoom kills me. The backgrounds kill me. All of that kills me. I really miss the time. Shelley has our office behind her right now on her background, and I really miss the days where kids just come in all day long, bother us, question us, have lunch with us, ask us questions. Like I said before, that's why all of us do what we do. It's for those interactions, whether it's online or in person. So I'm really missing that, but I am hopeful and optimistic that we will be back on campus at some point soon so we can get back to working with our students in person. But for now, like Jess said, and you know, I'm really enjoying being a part of their life in this really difficult and tumultuous time. And I look forward to doing it with your kids over the next several years. So with that, I think I'm turning it over to Shelley, and I am going.
You muted yourself already, Ross.
I did mute myself as I was talking. I'm a really impressive tech savvy human. I'm going to mute myself when I'm done talking, and then I'm going to share my screen so you can all see the presentation that we put together. I see parents laughing at me. Luckily, I know who they are, and I'm taking names. Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, so I am going to start off. You know, this was a lot to give you on your first night, you know, with your college counselors. We had a wonderful guest speaker and some introductions, but now we're going to get into some meat of our program. And the thing that kicks off our program is our initial cohort meeting that we're going to have with the 10th grade. You got an email, and in that email to your children, we let them know that there's going to be a meeting on December 7th during Kahila. This is just for kids. This is during Kahila. They will attend our Zoom rooms. And during that initial cohort meeting with our own students, we will introduce ourselves as their college counselor, and we are going to help them start talking about navigating 11th grade scheduling. Believe it or not, we start preparing the kids very early for 11th grade because of Teferret. We start in December. So we do this every year, and it's not a problem that these kids leave earlier. And what we're gonna do is in this meeting, we will go through the process of how they're going to schedule meetings with us. They are each going to make 30-minute one-on-one meetings with us in January. We will go through that process in our December 7th meeting. And during that meeting, we are also going to talk about the placement process and how they should be looking at the course request list, worksheet, and the program of studies. The program of studies is basically the course catalog of Milken. You will have access to the course catalog, to the program of studies in My Milken. At some point before December 7th, there will be a My Messenger, Milken Messenger sent home with that information so that you and your child can see, you know, what's offered for 11th grade and start having those conversations. And so that cohort meeting will be introducing them to how we're going to proceed with making their schedule. And then in January through April, depending on if your kid is going on Teferret, the Teferret students we always meet with at the beginning of January, just to make sure we see them all before they leave. Everybody else we will sprinkle in at some point before April. It's not first come, first served or anything like that. We just are building their requests. And we don't actually build the schedule until May. So right now we're just building requests in this system. And so during that meeting, they will already have their placements. Their placements are 100% chosen by their faculty. And they will already know what those placements are going into this meeting that we have with them. But this meeting is really the first time that we're gonna sit one-on-one with them and really start to get to know them. And we will be that point person from now on for the next 3 years. You know, in 9th grade, they kind of met with a random counselor, but now they'll get to meet with us. We'll get to know them, and we're gonna map out what the next 2 years would look like too. Okay, so if you wanna take this in 11th grade, these are the kinds of things that you could also take in 12th grade. Ross, can you go to the next slide for me? Okay, great. In the meetings that we're going to have, we're also going to talk, I just wanted to mention, about their extracurricular activities and, you know, possible summer ideas. But again, we will talk about what they've been doing and what their interests are, and really just try to get to know them. I want to talk a little bit about academics from more of a macro place to help you kind of understand the hats that we wear in this process. We are their academic planners, but obviously we're their college counselors too. So the goal overall is for students to, you know, keep growing, keep improving. And we call this trend and rigor. So when you think about it from a college's perspective, and when a college is going to look at a transcript a few years from now when they're applying to college, the transcript is the historical record of every class they've ever taken at Milken and every grade that they ever received. It's a final grade, not their progress stuff, but like final grades. And those final grades make up their transcript. And every year of high school gets added up and they get a grade point average, a GPA for 9th grade. And then every year they get a GPA for 10th grade, and then they're going to get a GPA for 11th grade. When they apply to college, it's important just for you to know that the GPA on their transcript and what a college is going to see is 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. And every grade, you know, equally matters. And every grade is essentially averaged. And that cumulative GPA becomes the GPA that they apply to colleges with, along with their senior coursework. So trend refers to how students perform each year. So we want them to have an upward trend or a consistently strong trend if they're already doing really strong, where they're maybe had a rough 9th grade, but they're growing in 10th grade. And then by 11th and 12th grade, they are, you know, getting their best grades and they're in their highest classes, and they've pushed themselves to take an honors class or more AP classes by junior or senior year. So we want to help them make good choices. We want to help them push themselves. We want them to be taking appropriate rigor when and where appropriate, so that they're challenged, but they're really able to meet that challenge. Their 9th grade is done. So whatever happened last year happened, and it It counts. It's in the GPA. It's on the historical record. Can't do anything about that now. Moving forward, they have a quarter into 10th grade so far. They still have 3 quarters left to go this year. And so this is a really good time as we go into to see them in December, just to remind them, you know, you still have a little bit more than half the year left of school. You know, we want them to do well in their classes, and that is really the most important thing that they should be doing now. If they are in any way struggling in their classes, if they need help or support, especially given these unusual learning circumstances, we really hope that they're reaching out to academic resources that we have at Milken. Their teachers are first and foremost always the go-to. So the teachers, you know the class, know the curriculum, know the tests, and know how they're being evaluated. And they are their, number one person who they should be going to meet with Lishma and to advocate, to have extra meetings or talk about a test or understand something, so that the kids are really learning and growing and can continue doing better. We have something at Milken, if you don't know, called NHS Tutors. NHS Tutors are National Honor Society 11th and 12th graders who have been admitted and inducted into this society because they have a very high GPA and excel across, multiple academic disciplines, and they meet, some service and leadership and community criteria as well. And those students tutor our younger underclassmen. So if you have a kid struggling in honors chemistry right now, well, we have lots of NHS tutors who took honors chemistry. And so after the teacher, that would be a really good place to go to find somebody. And you can go right onto My Milken in the resource board. There is a tile called Peer Tutors, and your student can go in there and click on that, and the tutors and the advisors will find somebody to match them with and pair them with, and maybe they can meet during a free period. So that's another resource that you could utilize. We also have our academic support services through Ms. Schwach or Mr. Scarlotta and all of the team for the 9th and 10th grade who they should and can be utilizing. The most important thing that students can be doing, if you hear nothing else, and if you want to know, like, what can my kids be doing in school right now, and what can we do for college, is just honestly doing the best they can in school. I mean, doing the best they can in their classes means engaging with their teachers. It means, asking questions. It means meeting with them during Lishma. It means demonstrating and showing their interest and their wanting to learn and take it all in. We want them taking advantage of, all of these kinds of opportunities they get being part of Milken. And those strong relationships with their teachers can really help make that happen, and engaging in the classroom and really helping them push themselves out of their comfort zone and participating and engaging and reading the material and being ready to talk about the material. All of those things really help them along the way. As I mentioned, the course placements for junior year will be totally decided by their teachers. Their teachers know them best. They know their skills. They know what they've mastered. They are the ones who know what the curriculum looks like for junior year. And so their teachers will place them accordingly. And they will be notified their placement before they have their meeting with us. And we don't have any say in what kinds of classes kids take, but we do help them make choices. Maybe they don't want to take every honors class. Maybe they, want to, take certain honors classes, but drop something else. So we help them do that. We help them make sure that they're also achieving all of their graduation requirements so that, they are in good shape to not only graduate from Milken, they've met, all the requirements that they need to be eligible for any of the colleges that they're going to be applying to. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is what the grade 11 course request sheet looks like. So this is the document that you'll be able to see on My Milken through the resource board once it's available. And this is just a snapshot, just so you remember what this looks like. You've probably seen this before. It's just going to be the list of all the courses available. So for example, the only one that we're looking at right now is essentially the 11th grade English options. Notice there's not an English honors option. So that's one of the nuanced conversations that we sometimes have with kids. In 11th grade, there's English 11 and there's AP language. We don't have English honors for lots of very deliberate, intentional reasons. So sometimes that's a question that comes up with us a lot. You know, English 11 kids who might have wanted to jump, can they jump to AP? We have that conversation with them. You know, some kids who maybe want the challenge, but they're also taking other AP classes, so maybe they won't do that. So that's the kind of thing that we will talk to them about. And this is something that you can have conversations with your kids about, so that when they come to the meeting with us in January or February or March or April, whenever their assigned meeting is, they will have this course request sheet printed and circled and highlighted the courses that they know they're approved for and the questions that they have and the electives that they think they want to take. And so the more prepared they are to come into that meeting with us, the better conversation we can have. So you guys are welcome to have those conversations with them, help prepare them for those meetings with us. I should also tell you that they're going to be signing up for a meeting with us on our calendar, but you as parents are going to be notified when that meeting is. So you'll be able to say, don't forget you have that meeting with Ms. Schreiber on January 15th. We do not like when our kids miss our meetings. So they don't want to miss their first meeting with their college counselor. So it would be really helpful. And the reason why we include you on the notification is so that you know when the meeting's happening, you can remind your son or daughter, the meeting is not for you, it's only for the student, but we really want to make sure you know it's happening. We will send home a follow-up email after this meeting, and it's going to outline the document that we discussed with each other and the course requests that they made. And if you have questions, we encourage you to reply to that email and engage with us and, you know, let us know what questions you might have from there on. But this is a great opportunity for us to get to know the kids for the first time. Thanks.
All right, course selection tips for junior year. So Ms. Kiermann talked about the conversations that we have with students after they have seen their placements. And part of what we talk about is, you know, just because you're recommended for a certain number of honors AP classes doesn't mean you necessarily have to take them or should take all of them. You want to keep in mind that junior year is tough. It's going to be tougher even if you are in all college prep classes because the expectations are higher and the workload increases. And also, you know, we assume at some point standardized testing will resume and they're going to be adding in test prep. They also may have leadership positions in the organizations that they've joined and continued to be involved in. If they start driving, you might make them get a job. There's lots of different things that kind of play into the busyness of junior year. It is important for students to progress if they are ready to, but it can be really disastrous for a student to push their way into a class and then struggle. We want students to be challenged. We don't want students to be overwhelmed. We don't want one class to be sucking up all of their time and energy to the detriment of their other classes. And that, you know, applies to what Ms. Kiermann was saying in terms of the transcript telling a story and, you know, them really being able to show growth. And part of that is knowing when to challenge themselves and when they're being pushed at an appropriate level. And again, as Ms. Kiermann said, teachers, we trust the teachers fully to make those determinations. They see the students in class. They are experts in, you know, really the pedagogy of teaching. And so we lean on them heavily for that. So we trust the faculty and we hope that you and your students will too. And, you know, when they come to us for these meetings, they should be ready to talk about, well, here's what I'm recommended for. I'm not really sure if that's what I want, or I am really ready to take on this challenge. And here's why. We're the ones that they can kind of run those ideas by and talk about those things with. But knowing that, you know, you want your kid to be challenged, you don't want them to feel overwhelmed and like one class is really pulling them away from their other classes. I do have an example of what a Milken transcript looks like right now for your students. I think it's the next slide. Yeah. So this is what a ninth grade transcript looks like. So you'll see that there are only grades for ninth grade. This student started off in some honors classes with some mixed results. And they have their 10th grade courses listed on there, but there are no grades because only final year grades go on the transcript. You'll also notice that for ninth grade, the unweighted GPA is there, the weighted GPA is there. Once 10th grade is over, that will be updated on that line with the information for 10th grade, and at the bottom will be a cumulative. So it's math. As Ms. Kiermann said, everything counts. This is your official record at Milken of the work that your student has done. It is the first document that colleges typically look at to get a sense of academics. And this transcript will, hopefully tell a story. So the student started off with a C, a couple Bs, and otherwise generally strong. The hope is that they grow from ninth grade and they steadily improve. And, maybe they really like ceramics and they continue on in arts programs. It looks like this student did Tiferet, so that's why Israeli history is on there. But clearly they're continuing to challenge themselves in math and science and Jewish studies and Hebrew. And so that, again, kind of paints a picture of what this student likes, but they also added Spanish. So I would imagine this student also is into languages and is having to balance learning multiple languages at the same time. These are all just things that you get from looking at the transcript without even knowing if this is even a real transcript or not, which it's not. So the transcript tells a story. The first thing that colleges will look at, but they will look at growth. They will look at the growth from 9th to 11th and then see the courses your students are taking senior year. And you can also look at, well, is the student, and at this point, we don't expect your students to know what they want to study in college. That is not the expectation. But if some of them have a sense of what they really like and what they're interested in, if they take econ in a changing world and know they really have liked that, and they hope to take AP econ, that's something that can relate to what they might want to study in college. If during their volunteer work, they get really passionate about language acquisition and learning language and reading to students, they might want to push themselves in languages and in English. So it doesn't have to be that way. Your students' activities or outside interests don't have to relate to academics, but it is a really nice way to get students excited about classwork in a way that relates to what they like outside of the classroom. And so if a student knows that they really like business, then they should also get really excited about math. If they really like robotics, physics should be something that appeals to them. All these things that as they start to learn themselves more as students, as they start to get involved in more things at Milken, might end up on a transcript to tell their academic story. Moving forward, I am going to talk about testing. So testing right now doesn't exist. Our seniors this year, well, there hasn't been a standardized test in LA County since February of 2020. So no students, unless they have left the county, which we have strongly discouraged them from doing, have taken a standardized test. That means that, I think Nikki mentioned it, the majority of colleges are test optional, meaning that our students apply to college and will be admitted to college without a test score. That is an anomaly, and we don't know if schools are going to continue to be test optional. We don't know when students are going to be able to test yet. As the parents of 10th graders, you can kind of sit back and not worry about it for now and trust that we are going to keep you updated as we learn new information. May 13th, put it on your calendar now. We are going to have a testing information night. That's actually going to be hosted by Compass Prep, which is a really well-respected and highly regarded test prep company that will come in and present to you, what is the SAT? What is the ACT? How are they different? How do you pick which one to take? And that's really when you can start thinking about, what are we even talking about? It's not something you need to worry about right now. For juniors, we do offer mock SAT and ACT exams. So that's already happened, or we're in the process of those for our juniors. They were online, but your students will have a free opportunity on our campus or virtually via our campus to take those mock exams. And then we'll also meet one-on-one with each of your students as juniors in November, December to create a testing plan. And so that's when things become much more concrete. Hopefully by then things will be concrete in the world. But that is when we'll sit down and send something home that's individual to your student instead of general. We usually recommend test prep begins in the summer or fall of junior year. So after that testing night on May 13th, if we have a better sense of when tests and if tests are happening, that's when you'll actually want to start thinking about, how are we going to start prepping? Who are we going to use? Are we going to use a book, a company, a class? And we're happy to help with those conversations, of course. But it's not something you need to think about quite yet. And then students will usually take their first official SAT or ACT in the spring of junior year and be finished in the fall of senior year. So it's a process that we hope does not last more than a year of their lives. Starting test prep early does not mean they're done earlier. It means you're spending more time and money on test prep, especially right now with the uncertainty of when is a test going to happen in the county. So we want you to know that that information is coming. We are obviously staying very on top of updates and what our students need to do, and trust that you're going to get the best and most up-to-date information from us in terms of testing, starting with May 13th. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jackson.
All right, great. We are in the home stretch of the evening. I am hoping to chat with you all about the activities that your students are involved in and the importance of really having them build a life beyond the classroom, beyond the Zoom room. I hope that everyone, students and you all, are able to find ways to take time from technology these days. So whether that is like cooking or hiking or crafting or anything that doesn't involve a screen, I mean, I feel like we're all really valuing that a lot. And when we meet with students, our message is really about taking the time to explore the many interests that they have in 9th and 10th grade, knowing that 11th and 12th grade is the time where they can really hone in on the interests that they've already started to cultivate. So as you've been hearing already, in some ways, it is totally okay if students are unsure of like, what are those things that light them up right now? Now is the time to explore and test the waters, and also know that it's like a really uncertain, unpredictable time, and that can require some creativity. But as Nikki said, this generation of students has so many tools, and it's a matter of them utilizing them and taking advantage of all that Milken is offering as well. So it's really totally okay if they are unsure. I think when I think about working in college admissions, one question that always bothered me a little bit, and sometimes like it comes up even in my job here at Milken, is this question of like, what should I do? What do colleges want to see? And I often flip it back on the student to say like, well, what do you want to show them? What are things that you are interested in? That's what they want to see. They want to see activities and things that really light you up, because I really believe that when it comes to students getting involved, there is no silver bullet of what is like the best activity to showcase to a college. It really is a matter of a student being able to articulate why that activity matters to them. So I really encourage your students to try new things in 9th and 10th grade. If they hate it, they can cross off the list. They never have to go to that club meeting again if it was just like not their jam. And for the things that they are really enjoying, they're going to be able to have time to find depth within it and really hone in on those interests throughout the rest of high school. Overall, when it comes to activities, it is about quality over quantity. It is not about building a laundry list of activities to show off to a college someday, but more about them growing in their interest to figure out what's a good match for them, how they can build their confidence, how they can find their community, how they can try new things, take on leadership roles where appropriate. And I really believe that a list of activities is only as strong as a student's ability to articulate why they do the things they do, how they impact people in their role, and what this really means to them, and how that can contribute to potentially a college community down the road. So I think that's in general our philosophy around extracurricular activities that I want to reiterate, and hopefully that takes a little bit of the pressure off of them having to have it all mapped out in this moment. The next slide really shows a lot of different activities that we are often encouraging students to consider. There are so many ways that students can take advantage of the many opportunities that Milken offers, and also being in a place like Los Angeles, and also now more than ever, there's so many opportunities for students to pursue interests even in a virtual world as well. So in our one-on-one meetings that we'll have with your students in January through the spring, when we meet with them, we discuss the activities that they're involved in. If they're feeling like they're having a hard time knowing where to look, or they tell us that they have a certain interest academically, we might try to encourage them to get involved in that activity beyond the classroom as well, and try to point them in that right direction. There are so many resources that Milken is offering within different clubs, organizations, and activities. This list is just a small snapshot of some popular options. We recently had our club fair at Milken, and from that club fair, one of the best things that my colleagues and I really enjoyed was this Google Doc spreadsheet that listed all the different clubs. Like there was over 60 at Milken, all of the students that were involved in them, the contact information, a description of all the clubs. Ms. Kiesler was in charge of putting that together, and we are just like so excited to pass that along to students and point them in that direction if they're coming to us and saying, you know, I'm kind of interested in this. Does something like this exist? How can I find like-minded people who also have these same activities and interests? We want to point them in that direction. So it is, like I said, now is the time to explore. If students are curious about like potentially certain career paths, not that they have to have that figured out by any means, but if they are wondering, you know, like I've heard that it could be kind of neat to be an engineer. I know I really love my science classes, my math classes. What are some ways I can get involved? I mean, we have lots of opportunities within research and robotics for students that are interested in potentially having a job where they do a lot of public speaking, or within the law field, something like speech and debate or mock trial, junior state of America. Those are great ways for them to really get a little taste of what that experience can be like outside the classroom too. So hopefully some of these activities are already some that you are seeing and recognizing from your students telling you that they are involved in. Now is that time to explore, and they can hopefully even take on leadership roles later on. I often have students asking me, you know, how important is it if I'm like club president or not? Or, oh, you know, I didn't get chosen for club president. Does this just mean that my experience has amounted to nothing? No, of course not. I think that there are a lot of ways that students can have an impact regardless of a title. And for students that do have a title in that club or organization, that title is only as important and valuable as a student's ability to really articulate what they did with that. Otherwise, it's just a title. And so that is where I remember Ms. Kiermann saying earlier, you know, one of the best parts of our job is that we are helping students reflect on why these things matter to them, and then being able to articulate that to colleges through their applications, through their interactions, through their college interviews down the road. So it really does require reflection, and that comes from, in some ways, students trying something that they maybe realized they hated and having a good story that, you know, they have to talk about how it led them to the thing that they did really love, and where they really found that they were supported and had a community and grew in their confidence and abilities in a variety of roles. So all to say, depth, quality, that matters the most, and being able to reflect on the impact that they have. Journalist Frank Bruni sums it up well, saying that whatever they do, they should be able to engage in it fully, reflect on it meaningfully. So I do encourage you to chat with your students about what some of these activities might be, what summer 2021 might include. I know that that probably seems kind of abstract and a little unsure right now, and that's okay, but just starting to get the conversation started at home around this. We will gladly pick up that conversation as well when we have these one-on-one meetings with your students in a few months.
Thanks, Jess. I think we should get Frank Bruni for one of our future events. He can really help us with our messaging. So I get to kind of summarize what we talked about today. And over the course of the evening, I listened as you did. We got a detailed look at what we do here at Milken to ensure that your kids find that right fit for a little bit over a year from now or 2 years from now. We believe that fit could be a gap year program. It could be studying overseas, going to a 2 or a 4-year college, entering the IDF or the American military, or any other number of options. But every year when we do this program, what a review of our process shows me more than anything else is that you're in good hands at Milken. Our academic planning and college counseling program is the most comprehensive of its kind in Los Angeles. I say that at every event I do for the admission team, for our team, and it takes care of every kid and family that we work with, which leads me to a comment and this slide you're seeing now about independent counseling and the hiring of outside help. And without prompting, Nikki Molina took the words out of my mouth an hour ago. I would implore you to allow us, the freedom to do our jobs. My colleagues and I work at Milken and invest our time and our lives in your kids because it's what we love to do. There are myriad reasons why the addition of an outside voice is not necessary and could be counterproductive in many ways. Trust us, please trust us to guide your children. And looking ahead, as the data being projected suggests, Milken seniors apply far and wide, and they end up all over the map. Last year alone, while many students stayed in California and attended UC's, Cal State's, and other California private schools like USC and Chapman and LMU and Pepperdine, also know that many of our seniors left California for college and are now studying in places like Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas, New Jersey, Georgia, Missouri, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, not to mention their older peers who are studying overseas as well. We point this out to encourage you to think broadly, openly, and to let us help you and your children navigate what does not have to be too arduous a process. Before we get to the Q&A, with the spirit of thinking broadly in mind, we need you to have an open mind. Your kids need to have open minds. We will do our best as an office to teach your kids about all the awesome options that are out there for them should they choose to attend college after Milken. So I'm going to leave you with 3 tips for the end of the night. Number 1, when you speak about college at home, speak about it carefully and with the knowledge that what you say matters. Being closed-minded and/or putting down a school has a tangible impact on the way in which your children might think about or view an institution moving forward. Number 2, appreciate the message you send when you purchase college gear of you or your child's dream school. What does that set them up for? We're all about dreaming and we're all about aspirations, and we will go out of our way to support our students in every way we can. But we try and avoid putting all of their hopes and dreams into gaining admission to that one perfect place. For in the end, there are likely tens, if not hundreds, of places your students can thrive at. And lastly, and please, number 1, if you are not currently doing this, please breathe. Number 2, watch and support your kids. And number 3, partner with us and learn over the next several years how we can best support your students in their remaining time at Milken. I'm going to ask all of my colleagues to unmute. I'm going to turn it over to Sam. I'm going to stop sharing if I can figure out how to do this on my computer. And we are back.
I've not received any questions via the chat. So I think everyone really wants to get to the Bachelorette, which is on in 15 minutes.
Well, this just proves, Sam, how thorough we truly are.
Yes, we're so thorough. Awesome.
And we have such savvy parents who know it's 10:45 in New York and it's Ross's bedtime. But please, I will say, if there are any questions out there, all of you have contact information for your assigned academic planner and college counselor. We sent you that information so you would use it. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to anybody or reach out to your college counselor and academic planner. We will send a follow-up email during the week with the recording, because I know many of you are dying to hear Nikki's message again and get that little bump of energy we all need. But thank you all so much for being with us. We are really looking forward to partnering with you for the next couple of years, and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.